TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And I want to let you know that the State of the Saints podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Over 2 million men worldwide have joined the movement for all their below-the-waist needs. Engineers for the last 18 months have perfected the greatest hair trimmer ever created, the Lawnmower 3.0. The third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. You can choose the Lawnmower 3.0 as well as other items by going to manscaped.com, and you can also save 20% by using the promo code State of Saints. That's manscaped.com. Use the promo code State of Saints and save 20% on the Lawnmower 3.0 as well as other Manscaped items. That's manscaped.com.
Man, that song get me hyped. Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And we have back once again here on the State of the Saints podcast from the New Orleans Advocate. We have Rod Walker. Rod, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much, man. Thanks for having me on. I couldn't hear the music, man. I didn't get to hear the pump up music.
Oh, no, man. No, I thought you were able to hear it. I apologize, man.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Man. But thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And, I'm just ready to talk about the New Orleans Saints and this NFL draft. Now that it is in the books, right? And, we know what the Saints have done. We know what they did in the first round, in rounds 1 through 7. But what is your overall take of the NFL draft? How do you think the Saints did?
I think when you look at it based on needs, I mean, going to this draft, there were some positions we thought they needed to address, and I feel like, they addressed them. Obviously, they didn't address them with some players that a lot of people thought and that we predicted, I guess. But, I think they needed a cornerback. They got a cornerback. They needed a linebacker. They got a linebacker. We talked about another receiver. They got another receiver. We talked about quarterback. They got a quarterback. And this is a team, they added some depth on the offensive line, which is – that's something they always do. So, I think they did I think with a draft, you never know how they did until, ask me this question in 2 years and we'll know.
No.
You just don't know. But I think as far as needs, I think they did a really good job of meeting those needs. And you look at those, I actually had I tweeted some about this the other day. You look at the Saints draft history over the past 6 or 7 years. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but their first pick is typically always an offensive or defensive lineman. That's just where this team starts. And you look at what they've done the past 4 years. This team's, averaging 12 wins a season over that time. So, This formula is working for them. Obviously they haven't gotten over the hump, but as far as, players, I think they're doing a good job of finding them. And these guys, they evaluate talent a lot more better than me and you do.
Yeah.
I know we want to think that we know what we're talking about, but this is what those guys do. And again, we just have to wait and see how this pans out, man. But I think they did feel their needs, and as far as positions, which is the big thing.
Yeah, look, I always concede to the coaches and front office, and I said this before, on the State of the Saints podcast. They know more about what they actually need than we do. I think a lot of the times, we just get so emotionally invested. I can think of last year, I thought that. Because of all the media, stuff talking about Jordan Love and how the Saints fell in love with him, I guess I got so emotionally invested. I thought for a fact that they were going to draft him, but they ended up going in a different direction, getting Cesar Ruiz. And then this year, I guess, it was a little bit of a head scratcher to a lot of Saints fans because they felt, Peyton Turner, no disrespect to him, but they that wasn't a name that you would have thought like they would have gotten. Everybody. I mean, even when you all interviewed, Sean Payton at the golf tournament. I mean, he mentioned cornerback. He didn't say anything about an edge rusher. So, but what is it? You all had an opportunity to actually interview Peyton Turner, the defensive end out of Houston. What are your overall thoughts of him? I mean, just a few minutes that you talked to him. What do you get from him?
I think even before talking to him, he was a guy that I didn't have on my radar at all. Right. And I remember looking up that night. I looked up just to see what he did against Tulane because I covered Tulane some, and I know he had a really good game against them. I think it was 2 sacks and 4 tackles for loss or something. I tweeted that out, and people were like, "Oh, that's Tulane. That doesn't mean anything." And I wasn't tweeting out to prove a point. I was just showing that this guy's pretty disruptive. And you look at it, he only played like 5 games, I think, last year. He had some COVID issues and he battled a little tweak of an injury, but he had 5 sacks in 5 games, and he's a guy that's really disruptive. He has the size and length, and obviously, I mean, you look at this Saints team, you say, they don't need a defensive end, but they did lose Trey Hendrickson, and Davenport hadn't been healthy for a full season yet. We hadn't really seen him reach his full potential, and Cam Jordan's getting older on the other side. I think Carl Granderson's a guy that's really going to be good, but I don't think if adding a defensive end who you have ranked high on your board is what you want to do. I think I don't think you can ever go wrong getting some help up front, and if he's going to be a guy that's going to be as disruptive as he was in college, I think that's a I mean, I think you have to get that guy instead of you can get a cornerback that you're not really high on, but why do that if you got this guy that up front that that you really like? So I was okay with the pick, and just kind of talking to him. I mean, this is a guy that he has a lot of confidence, and all these guys. I mean, this draft class when we talked to all. I don't think I wasn't on the Landon Young call. I missed out on that because I was doing some for work. But all those guys, man, they think they're really sharp guys and really confident, and we'll have to see how good they are once they get here. But he's a guy that seems like he's going to be able to do what Sean Payton, the vision they have for him.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seems like the New Orleans Saints have a type, though. You look at Tano Passanio. I mean, what he like 6'7"? He has a long wingspan. You look at Marcus Davenport a couple of years ago, and now you have Peyton Turner. And I don't think that it's funny that you put up the footage about him versus Tulane, because you can't say it's just Tulane, because on one hand they'll say it's just Tulane, but when McCleskey got here as a wide receiver, everybody got excited. And then you had people that wanted the Saints to draft Cam Sample at the same time. So you can't say it's just Tulane, because, that's pretty impressive. They got some talent on that side of the ball, guys getting drafted as well. So it'll be interesting to see, man. I mean, I like what I saw, as far as the interview. He seems like he's a very confident kid. And, I think that's the first part. You believing in yourself, believing that you belong there. So I guess the rest will take care of itself. But we'll move on. You look at the fact that the Saints went into this offseason. I think we all can agree that cornerback was a primary concern. They ended up getting a cornerback, Paulson Adebo. I think he's about 6'1", 200-plus pounds out of Stanford. But to me, I don't feel like, that's enough. There's a cornerback that's on everybody's radar right now, everybody's been talking about, and that's Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman, he was on Stephen A. Smith show, Ride, and he talked a little bit about, the offseason and him being a free agent. And this is a little clip what he said.
What's going on with you? Where are you going to end up playing football next year?
It's on pause. I got to wait through his draft process. Obviously, the first round, a lot of teams got corners. Some teams didn't get the corners they wanted. And I think once this draft process completes, my phone will ring a little more with people who expected to get a guy and didn't get the guy they wanted. I'm not as in control as I was. At 33, it's right. Just like it doesn't matter what you put on tape. It's like Father Time is undefeated. And so I just got to continue to stay in shape, continue to stay ready. Obviously, a return to San Francisco isn't out of the cards. I've had conversations with Seattle. I've had conversations with the Saints, the Raiders. And, we just got to wait to see how things play out.
Yeah, so as you can see, I mean, the Saints were one of the teams. You couldn't hear the clip either? Wow. Oh, man. I wonder if everybody...
You see what he said, though. Whenever you go to something else, I can't hear it.
Okay, look, I apologize.
You can sum it up for me, though.
Okay, but the Saints were like one of the teams like on his radar. He mentioned like the Saints were one of 4 teams that he mentioned. It was Seattle. It was I think it was the 49ers once again, and it was the Raiders. And as you look at Richard Sherman, I mean, he's 33 years old. In the clip he mentioned, you know, he doesn't have the leverage he once did, but he still feel like he can play. Do you think that the Saints drafting a guy from the same school he graduated from, the Saints have a coach on their staff, the guy that kind of is, you know, connected to his success of being All-Pro? Do you think that makes the Saints attractive landing spot for him?
Oh, I think it definitely does. I mean, I think Chris Richards, that was his coach with the Legion of Boom, and he's a guy that obviously Richards are familiar with, and and Mickey Loomis said this. I think we talked to Mickey after the second day of the draft, Friday. Yeah, one thing he said was that he wouldn't necessarily say that they're done with the cornerback position. I think bringing in I think asking a rookie to come in and fill that role is kind of asking a lot. Especially, I mean, if it was one of those top 4 guys, Surtain or Greg Newsome or Caleb, those guys.
Yeah.
You might say, okay, this is our guy, but I think Paulson Adebo is a guy they feel like can eventually step into that role. But I think this team is definitely going to be on the market looking for a corner. And I think if you look at where Richard Sherman is in his career, and you're not asking him to come in here and be the number 1 cornerback, you just need him to be on the other side of Marshawn. And I think it's a perfect fit for him. And I mean, at this time in his career, and he said he doesn't have the leverage, and the Saints don't have a lot of money, so that probably, I'm sure he understands that. I mean, I think it'll be a good fit for him, and I think that's something this team.
Yeah,
I think he's one of the guys they have to go out. There's another cornerback out there, Steve Nelson, was with the Steelers last year, who's out there. I think those 2 guys are probably, if I'm the Saints, I mean, those are the 2 guys I probably have my eyes on. But I think Richard Sherman is definitely a good fit with Chris Richard being here as a coach of the secondary now.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Richard Sherman. Number one, he doesn't have any representation. He represents himself. The last contract negotiation that he had with the 49ers, it was mostly incentive based. Like he was coming off an injury. There was a lot of unanswered questions about him, and he gambled on himself. So this isn't a guy that I just feel like would be asking for, a house, the cars, the kids, and a dog. This is a guy who understands his football immortality. He understands that he's at the twilight of his career, and he still feels like he has something to offer. And like I said, this is an attractive situation. Like even when you all interview Sean Payton, when you all asked about Paulson Adebo and what type of role do you have for him, he said on the left side of the football, and that's where Richard Sherman played primarily. Like 80, almost 90% of the time, he was lined up on the left side. So I think that the fact that he can actually come in, and I'm pretty sure he probably have like this Stanford allegiance, like the whole alumni thing going for him. I think that he would probably take it upon himself that he would want to try to help this young kid, be the best he can be and live up to his true potential. So should be interesting. But
it's funny you say that because when we were talking to Paulson Adebo, like as soon as we got off the call, I remember I texted somebody and I said, "Man, this guy reminds me of Richard Sherman." And it wasn't just because he went to Stanford. It was just, Richard Sherman's like a super smart guy. Yeah, that's how Paulson was. He came across as a guy. He's smart, but he also has a little swag and a little confidence. And I won't even call it. I guess you can call it a little cockiness, not like in a bad way though. Just a guy who believes in what he's doing. He feels he can lock receivers up. He just had the right mindset, and I think it'll be a good fit for the present and long term. I agree with what you said. I think Richard Sherman could actually groom this, Paulson, and it would bode well for the future for that position for this team.
Yeah, I mean, even the fact that he used to play wide receiver, like
right,
just like Richard Sherman did. Richard Sherman played wide receiver and switched over to cornerback, which helped him like in the long run, especially like turning the ball over, catching interceptions, and also with different techniques. So, man, it's gonna be interesting. I like this guy a lot. Like he seems like a little bit of a fun guy as well. Man, he was joking about he thought the league actually called him. I think the second day of the draft, and it turns out to be like one of them warranty spam calls that you get extending your warranty. So he got off the phone with one of his friends to get it, and I thought that was pretty funny. But I think that he'll be a good fit. I think he'll fit in well with the locker room, and we know that the Saints like the guys that kind of just fit into the locker room culture as well, not just on the field. Speaking of which, we talk about locker room culture, like I just mentioned. But you have a lot of Saints fans out there, Rod, that are very frustrated at the fact that the New Orleans Saints, they always tend to get Ohio State players. Like in second round, they get Pete Werner, right? You got Michael Thomas on the team. You got Lattimore. You had Von Bell. I mean, list goes on and on. But there is a short supply or little to no supply of LSU players. What are your thoughts on the New Orleans Saints not drafting? I don't say they're not willing because I don't feel like that's fair, but them not drafting as many LSU players as some Saints fans would like.
I don't think there's anything that Saints fans should. I mean, not saying LSU fans, whoever should feel slighted about. I don't think. And the Saints, they did draft Will Clapp a couple of years back in the seventh round. So I mean, it's not like they just totally don't do it. But I think if you look at most NFL rosters, you don't see. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. I guarantee you Bengals fans aren't complaining. Well, maybe they are complaining, but they're probably not complaining because they're not drafting Ohio State guys. They're drafting all these LSU guys. I mean, NFL teams are going to get the best players that they can get for their team. They don't care where you went to school. There's the colleges in their state. They're on a farm. That's not a farm team for the pro teams. I mean, it doesn't work like that. So if there was a guy who the Saints had graded high, they would draft him. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything to that, and there shouldn't be. And I think if you can look up the numbers and you'll see that most NFL rosters, they don't have the roster isn't littered with guys from the college in that state. I mean, it just doesn't work out like that.
Yeah, I just think that it's just the fact that you know how the love for LSU and New Orleans Saints are like kind of conjoined. Like you can't love the Saints and not like LSU. It's like goes together. So you have people that are born and raised in that state, fans of the team, and they look at how talented these LSU players are when they go other places. I mean, we've seen it up close and personal. I mean, in the divisional round of the playoffs, when former LSU Tiger Devin White almost single-handedly won the game for the Buccaneers, all over the field. And then you watch people like Patrick Queen perform in Baltimore where the Saints could have easily got him. So I think there's a level of frustration. But to me, Rod, I feel like teams do their due diligence. And sometimes teams don't want to draft guys that are close to their home around individuals that they feel like could be, a bad influence on them or influence them in any type of way. Like that's one of the things. That was one of the biggest issues. Like when I was staying in Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys, they drafted Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant was from a town called Denton, Texas, which is like about 30 minutes from Dallas, right? So, but in his first couple of years, he was getting in trouble. And it got to a point where they actually had to have somebody actually living with this dude in order for him to like stay on a straight and narrow path. So not to say that those guys wouldn't, but when you start making money and you got your homeboys and stuff like that, like sometimes, it's hard for us to change our ways, but at the same time want to stay true to ourselves. And I think teams understand that. It's like you're doing your thing. You get opportunity to work, and interact and interview all these people, and then you go back home to the Yazoo and that's my boy right there. How it is, man. So I just feel like teams actually look at those type of situations and they maybe don't want to put themselves in that or put that player in there. That's my way of thinking. I think that may have something to do with it.
I've talked to guys before, like high school recruits, even like guys who sign schools out of state, for example. I mean, that's kind of their reason. Like, man, I got to get away from here. They just need to get away, and because you have so many people just hanging on to you. So I get it. And and I don't know how much the Saints. I mean, you might be right. That may be a reason why the Saints haven't. But overall, I just think the Saints are, at the end of the day, I think they're going to draft players who they feel like they are the best fit for that.
And like you said, over the last couple of years, I mean, they've been knocking them out of the park. But look, I understand, Rod, this is the State of the Saints podcast, but look, at the same time, man, I am an African-American man. I graduated from an HBCU, went to Jackson State University. No HBCU players being drafted out of 259 individuals, right? Swag football was on full display on ESPN. We seen so many talented players out there up close and personal. But once again, 259 players, and not one of those players coming from HBCUs. And I do have a clip, not a video, but a clip, so I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see this. All right?
Okay.
This is from Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders, this is on his Instagram page. He says, and we have the audacity to hate one another while our kids are being neglected and rejected. I witnessed a multitude of kids that we played against that were more qualified to be drafted. My prayers are that won't ever happen again. Get the knife out of my back and fight with me, not against me. And I'm not so much concerned about, his little, confrontations with, I know he's talking about Cornell Maynard. He's the head coach of Alabama A&M. They got a little thing going right there. Let's eliminate that. But I'm talking about the words that he's saying. 259 players ride, not one of them coming from HBCUs. What is your thoughts on that?
I think, well, first of all, I went and looked up those. I saw the tweet the other day, and I looked up the numbers. And this isn't like something new, though. You go back. Last year it was one HBCU player drafted, and I don't have the names in front of me. I apologize. The year before that it was 4. The year before that it was 3. So that's 8 in the past 4 years. So the numbers just haven't been that high. And there was a guy Grambling who, I think his name is David Moore. He's a lineman. I thought he would get drafted. He was rated pretty high on a lot of boards, and I was surprised actually that he didn't get drafted. And I think they're doing some things. They have it's like a Senior Bowl like thing that's going to be here in New Orleans next year for players from HBCUs, and it'll give all the pro scouts a chance to see some of these guys that do get overlooked. But I think it's something that, I think they're going to have to, it lets Deion know that, hey, we got to do some recruit better maybe. But again, when you look at David Moore and Grambling, he's a guy, I don't know what the story was and why he got overlooked, because he's one of the better players, at the Pro Bowl. I meant the Pro Bowl, Senior Bowl. I think I might have said Pro Bowl earlier. I meant Senior Bowl.
Nah.
Yeah. It's something that it lets Deion know what he's up against and what he's going to have to do to bring some talent in. You look at the recruiting class he had this past year. I think, if he can continue that, and if other SWAC schools can start getting those kind of recruits in, we'll see these numbers go up. But over recent years, the numbers haven't been great.
Yeah. You look at the opportunity of playing in the spring, them being on full display, Saturday, Sunday, whatever the games were being played. People love football. And because there was a lack of football on television, more people were actually looking at this. And I feel like you're getting a larger sample size. Now, I can accept the fact that, okay, you got some of these major college football programs. They're going to dominate the airwaves because a lot of scouts are going to be able to look at them. But when you don't have absolutely anything going on, you already got the sample size of the major college football players that you wanted to scout, combine coming up, pro days or whatever. You can actually watch guys on television. Like there's a guy out at Southern University named Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis led the FCS in sacks. You look at Aquil Glass, a guy who's a quarterback at Alabama A&M. This guy was actually on some people's big board as being, a prospect. So you can't say that these guys aren't as talented. And you also mentioned the offensive lineman from Grambling. So I think what Deion Sanders is trying to say is he's trying to change what a lot of people think about HBCU football. And with that, right, it should basically change the whole landscape. And I think his words also, before we move on, it wasn't so much about anybody like hating on him or anything like that. He's saying he wants those individuals to have the same mind frame as him, because I feel like sometimes we limit ourselves, right? We know what we have and we don't try to step outside of the box, and that can cause us hardships or even lack of opportunities. So I think that he is encouraging those individuals to step their game up. But I don't want to see a situation like this ever happen again. There's too many talented guys that play HBCU football to not a handful of them get their name called. I'm not a fan of that. I think they need to do a little bit better than that.
And you mentioned thinking outside of the box, and that's what it's going to take to change this. I mean, and like getting these guys in and, making people realize that they are some. And I'm hoping this, and I apologize, I can't remember the name of what they're calling this Senior Bowl type event in New Orleans next season. But I'm hoping that can help because, I mean, you're going to get the best of the best guys from HBCUs here. And, unfortunately, they have to do that. I mean, you wish those guys could get their shot at the actual Senior Bowl. Like, I mean, some guys have, obviously. I mean, you had, Teron, years ago. And I can't remember the lineman from Alabama State, Titus something, that got drafted, 2 or 3 years ago. So, I mean, there have been some guys who got through there. But, I mean, you want to see more opportunities. And that's why they set up this game here in New Orleans.
Yeah. I mean, there's Teron Armstead out there right now. I mean, and there's Darius Leonard's out there. I mean, they got Tariq Cohen's out there.
Right.
So, I mean, so many different guys. So I just hope that this new platform that they're putting out there, I hope these guys get some exposure because, once again, it's hard for me to believe that you can find a Deontay Harris from Assumption in college and you can't find, a player that go to HBCU. But finally, let's talk about Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston has been using this offseason to work out with some of the wide receivers for the New Orleans Saints. We've seen Adam Troutman out there. We've seen Juwan Johnson, Traquan Smith. But, Ryan, we haven't seen him working out with Taysom Hill. What's going on with this? Like, are they having, like, workouts, like, with Taysom? Is Taysom just not, like, filming it? I mean, what's going on here? Like, is Jameis being a little bit more proactive than number 7 Taysom Hill is right now?
I'm not sure. It's a good question, man. And I've seen people comment with that on Twitter, but I think these guys, especially your receiver, I mean, you want to work with a quarterback, whoever it is. And I think I think what you said about him being proactive is probably accurate. And I don't even know if is Jameis the one posting most of that stuff or just other people? Like, I don't know if Jameis is out like promoting it, but I just think he's putting in the work and.
Yeah, I don't think he's putting it out like according to like I think I may have seen like one video. Maybe his social media team probably put out for him or something like that. But I don't think he just personally doing it himself. But for the most part, it's just individuals taking pictures of that. But I mean, Rod, I just find it very interesting. Like,
it's definitely yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think. And to be honest, I mean, James is a guy who I think most people think is going to win that job. And, and maybe the team knows that too. I don't know. And I say that, and Taysom could be doing the exact same workouts, and we just don't know it. So it wouldn't be fair for me to try to figure that out. But we know what James is doing, and we know who he's doing it with. And that's good to see that this guy's putting in his work because, I mean, we've seen Drew Brees videos like this in the past. And, that's all you want to see is these guys putting in the work, and that's what James is doing. And, I think if he does win a job, I think he has a chance to have a really good season with this team because the weapons are there. He has a good offensive line. I mean, we know the numbers he put up in Tampa Bay, even though he had all the interceptions. But, if you cut down those, I mean, this offense could be really explosive because he brings some things to the table that Drew didn't bring. I mean, we saw his arm strength in that one play in the playoff games. And, so just seeing that should be pretty promising if you're a Saints fan. Again, that's assuming James wins this position.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, I mean, he's really taking it serious. He's really taking it serious. I mean, he's cut down on weight. He's really dialed in right now. And like I said, I mean, he's being proactive. And maybe Taysom isn't that way. Maybe Taysom is out in Utah. I know he got a new home built for his wife and his son. Maybe they're out there throwing the football around, with some players that we don't know. But I mean, we know where we live. We live in a social media world, right? If it out of sight, out of mind. If it's in our face, then that's exactly what's going on. Be that if Taysom out there like channeling his inner Drew Brees or not, like if we're not seeing it, then we're wondering where is it, Yeah. Final question: what draft pick or undrafted free agent are you looking forward to seeing this training camp?
Draft pick, let me think. I think out of the guys they drafted who I think can really contribute right away, it may be the linebacker at Ohio State just because I just think I just think it's a need, and I think they saw what Quan Alexander brings to the table. Mm-hmm. Speaking of LSU guys, they did have one. They didn't draft him, but he was here. So I mean, he's a guy I really want to see. But I think Paulson Adebo, man, just because I think in training camps, a lot of times with linebackers and linemen, you can't really see what they do at training camp.
Right.
Cornerback, I mean, they do so many one-on-one drills, so you're getting to see these guys go up against the Michael Thomases, and so I'm kind of looking forward to. He's probably the guy that I'm most looking forward to, just because of the position he plays and what you can see during camp with him. Yeah. As far as the undrafted guys, I probably hadn't looked. I guess the guy from Syracuse, Trill
Williams.
Trill Williams, yeah. I mean, he's a guy. He's another DB, so I mean, I like to see what he can do as well. Yeah,
I mean. Pete Werner, I mean, he got some Luke Kuechly in him somewhere. I mean, this guy seems like a no nonsense type guy. You know, right. He seems like he's a pretty quiet guy, but when he gets on the field, like he just turns it on. And you already alluded to the other pick, Trill Williams. I mean, anybody named Trill, right. Like it's just a name. I mean, it's just his name alone just make you interested to see what he gonna do. Right. You can't be named Trill. You know, it not be able to ball, you know. So, no doubt about it. But, Rod, thank you so much for being a part of the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. And before you go, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
On Twitter, I have to think about this every time because I got a Twitter name, Instagram name. Twitter is Rod Walker Nola. Mm-hmm. And you can read my stuff on NOLA.com. Right for the Times-Picayune/advocate. So you can read it on NOLA.com. And covered Saints, Pelicans, some Tulane, just pretty much all New Orleans sports stuff. So,
yeah. Well, we're looking forward to reading some of your articles and also just some of the questions that you ask. We really do appreciate your time and, continue to give us that good content, man. We really do appreciate that.
Anytime, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah.